well, don't ya know? I'm here with Zach. He's over there. We got Patrick.
Patrick's
He's
joining
over
us
there
today.
Oh, yeah, what's up? Hey, there, don't you know?
Oh, well, don't you fucking know? Well, we're talking about the Coen Brother cult classic, Fargo.
Fargo, released in 1996. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Cannes Film Festival.
Canis.
Wow.
It was directed only by Joel Coen.
But they both write it.
Yeah.
They both write it.
Yeah.
It stars Frances McDormand in a great role. McDormand. William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi, Harv Presnell.
Hey there, Wade.
And Peter Stormare.
Yeah, and I honestly I remember watching this back in high school, and I never really returned to it since. I mean,
you haven't returned to this one since?
No,
I first saw it in high school too.
But when I first watched it, I enjoyed it. It's a gritty, kind of crime thriller, but it's also set in a really goofy world.
It's a black comedy.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed it, but for some reason, I always return to other Coen Brothers movies more, No Country for Old Men, or even A Serious Man. I love that one. What else is there? There's
Burn After Reading.
Big Lebowski, and I would more return to those than this one for some reason. But this is it's a really good movie. There's not much wrong with it, to be honest. This
is maybe my fourth or fifth viewing of this movie. I've seen this movie a handful of times.
I've seen it a couple.
It's only my second.
Only your second time seeing it?
Yeah, and I really just...
I like it. It's a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, I love the juxtaposition.
It's an enjoyable watch.
It really is. And it's short and sweet, and the characters in it are fucking... it's really gritty, brutal murder set against the people with the dumbest accents in all of America.
Minnesotans.
Yeah.
Well, it actually stretches across 2 states.
The Twin Cities.
Yeah, Minneapolis.
Minnesota, and then North Dakota, because Fargo, which weirdly enough, Fargo is despite it being the title name of the movie, is only 1 or 2 scenes take place in Fargo, and that's the opening scene when he meets with the hitman. So for a little bit of context, William H. Macy plays Jerry, who is a little bit of a bumbling goof, spineless weakling, and he meets with 2 hitmen, one of them played by Steve Buscemi, and I believe the other one is
a funny looking fella,
Peter Stormare. And when they meet in the bar in the beginning, that's in Fargo, and I think for the majority of the time they're outside of Fargo.
Yeah. Brainerd.
So William H. Macy, Jerry's character, hires the 2 hitmen to kidnap his wife in order to extort money from his wealthy father-in-law, who owns an investment firm. I believe it was some type of investment firm of some kind. In order to, it's not weirdly enough, it's not quite explicitly stated what he needs the money for. It was alluded that he needed, he had made fraudulent car deals.
But the deal, the loan on that was half of what he was trying to get for that parking lot. He was trying to get $750,000 for that parking lot.
A few numbers are quoted, because first he goes with $80K as the ransom money for getting the wife back, and splits it with those guys, so he would only get $40K.
No, because he was always going to ask his father-in-law for $1 million. Mm-hmm. So he was already screwing them.
He only told them
over.
$80K.
Yeah, but he was going to take $920,000.
And that's why towards the end, Steve Buscemi sees how much money's in there, and he goes and buries it, returns to his buddy to tell him, here's your cut, $40K, and I'm taking the car, where he would probably return to dig up the rest of the million, basically $920,000.
And then he was still jipping him. On the fucking when he wanted to split the car.
Steve Buscemi, if you don't, I mean, he has that famous scene in not Inglourious Bastards, Reservoir Dogs, where he talks about the whole concept of tipping. So maybe it's he's just he plays a very cheap character.
Yeah.
But I think one of the coolest things about this movie is that it really shines a light on this dissatisfied with life feeling. You know what I mean? This guy, he feels like William H. Macy's character, Jerry feels like he's done everything right. He married somebody who had a well-off father. He thought that he would be marrying into money. The wife is an
he's employed by his father-in-law too. His father-in-law owns a car dealership.
Right.
Oh, I didn't pick up
and
on that.
She's an unfortunate-looking lady, so I mean, not like
unfortunate looking.
She was just
she was a handsome lady,
a panicked looking woman.
Yeah,
she was fine though. She was about as attractive as Frances McDormand.
But it goes to this overall,
just a plain white lady.
it goes to this overall feeling like it feels like your life is out of your own hands. Like that's the feeling I get a lot, and this was Jerry's one chance to finally do something that would be something good for him, something that he could start his own business.
Good for him, but clearly not good for his wife because she has to get kidnapped.
Of course,
because of it.
This is him exercising control for the first time in his life. That's what I get from this.
He definitely strikes me as a very weak-willed, spineless type character.
Oh yes, dear. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that this movie, in a weird way, we were kind of bringing up before we were talking about this, but we mentioned Falling Down, but it's like it's almost a very similar way, except the guy in Falling Down he actually caused a lot of damage. William H. Macy kind of just sets a series of events that just go and fall like dominoes, and it's a comedy of errors, which is like I said, a very common Coen Brothers trope.
Yes.
And just like how, like you said, the best laid plans will go awry.
Yes, that's what I see this movie as. Is it's an example of that expression. The best laid plans often go awry because. And I don't even think these were good laid plans either.
No.
Most of the time you see it occur time and time again where they have a plan and everything goes wrong. Murphy's Law style. They have a plan to kidnap his wife. They go in there. His wife puts up a fight. She's running around. She gets caught up in the shower curtain, falls down the stairs.
Right.
Or when the cop comes to them. And
Peter Stormare straight up turns to camera like he's on a sitcom, being like, "Can you believe this? She fell down the stairs." You know what I mean? Go on.
Well,
sorry.
when the state troopers, when Buscemi and his cohort have her in the back of the car. And the state trooper pulls him over. He's like, "Don't worry, I got this. I got a plan. I can handle this." And he hands him his wallet with the money flashing, like he's trying to bribe him. And he's like, "No, why don't you get out of the car?"
I want to take care of it right here in Brainerd.
I'll take care of it. The tags are he has the dealer tags on. He needs to put the temporary tags on.
DLR.
And it's about getting in over your head. I think that is another important thing to bring up, because with the fraud, alleged to fraud that he's committing at the dealership, all this other stuff, I feel like he's strung a lot of plans together, a lot of schemes together that are just not working out. Right.
And but everybody's plan is not working out.
But even when he tried to do it the right way, he got edged out. And it's almost like because he's a failure, he's not a strong man. He tries to do it right the one time. He brings it to what's the guy, Stan Grossman,
the number two.
The number two to his father-in-law, and he brings it to him, and the father-in-law. Basically, you get the idea that he doesn't really know what he's talking about as far as business go, and the guy's the father's just like bravado, right? There's not a wealth of information there. Like that's why the guy thinks that he can go and strong arm Steve Buscemi with a gun, when he's doing the bag exchange, and.
He gets one shot off.
But the funny thing is about that moment is that, like, as soon as, like, Stan Grossman, even when he agrees with Jerry, he'll be like, oh, well, Stan agrees now, so then I agree with you now. It's just, like, it's so dumb. Like, you get this feeling that William H. Macy's character is just so dejected that no one takes him seriously as a joke, and
So wait, what is Stan Grossman, the advisor to Jerry's father-in-law, Wade? Who is Stan what is he supposed to represent? Like who is he supposed to be?
Like legitimacy, like like being validated, almost like being validated in the world.
He seems like there's this
economically viable.
This film is filled with incompetence.
Yeah.
Like most of the characters are incompetent. I think Stan Grossman represents like the little light of competence that everybody kind of looks to be like, what does he think? What is he doing?
Yeah,
or for example, Frances McDormand's character, I think she's a good example of that competence because she plays the cop investigating all of this, and she's more in tune and more aware of what's going on than any other character, despite her being in the dark of what the actual actions were and who was involved. She seems more competent than the majority of the characters. Same thing with Stan Grossman. It's like incompetence versus the I
mean, Stan Grossman kind of seems like the most competent, incompetent man. Like, I mean, even his name, Stan Grossman.
Stan Grossman.
Is not like a name of someone who's like, I don't know, a huge success. He's even the number two to the father-in-law.
I think that's a similar name to Tom Cruise's character in Tropic Thunder, Les Grossman. All right, Patrick, why don't you start us off? What's the scene you like in this movie?
Oh man, I like the scene where they're driving in the car, and
where it's the two hitmen.
Yeah, and he's talking about how quiet the other guy is, and he's like, "I'll be here in complete silence." Yeah, we'll do complete silence, and then he starts looking around, and he's like, "See how you like it, complete silence."
Okay, well, I think that this character, I believe Carl is Steve Buscemi and Gare is the other guy, and of the two hitmen. So Gare's character is you'll see this type of character in other Coen brother films. In particular, the one I think of is Anton Chigurh.
Yeah.
From No Country for Old Men, which one
the stoic kind of weirdo.
There is a prevailing character, and in a serious man, there's a weird version of this character, and that's the big fat kid that's in the kid's class. But anyways, there is like this weird trope of a character the Coen brothers use, which is like this silent, biting, but like menacing person. Usually, it's a male character who is like kind of a purveyor of death and is very quiet most of the time, but is also like probably the most dangerous and most deadly character. Many people speculate that this is like how the Coen brothers represent death, or like a Grim Reaper type character, like kind of a very silent killer, biding their time, menacing presence, but very silent at the same time. And I always thought that was an interesting, I guess, portrayal of a character that's supposed to represent the Grim Reaper, essentially. And definitely, like, in this movie, like, Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men does most of the killings. Gare, the hitman, kills the most people in this film, too, So, like, arguably, like, he's that version he's the Anton Chigurh of Fargo, I think.
No, I'd agree with that. Like, I like the choice of like that like kind of bad guy character where he's just like stoic and menacing, and it like almost like you're like, oh, this person's a fucking psycho.
Yeah, I mean, you see what he does to.
I think that like for that scene at least, like it is funny how like Carl C. Buscemi makes light of it. He's like, oh, so we're not gonna talk. We're just gonna sit here in silence. I can do that. And he just keeps going on. Silence is what you want. Silence is what you get, huh? And then he's like quiet for a few seconds. He's like, so nothing but silence. Just absolute quiet. And the guy's just sitting there like, not responding really to it.
Right.
Is he like, it's unknown if he's doing that on purpose. Like if he's like, doing that on purpose, like being like, oh yeah, I can be quiet, and it keeps going on, on purpose in order to try and, provoke some reaction from him, or if that's just him naturally being goofy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it's him just like kind of standing off against the guy, like holding the power kind of thing.
Yeah, that perhaps that guy remaining quiet is him like commanding the dynamic between the two, and that's Carl's way of trying to reestablish dominance between the two of them.
Yeah. I think the scene with William H. Macy where it's right in the beginning and the customer's really angry at him, right? Because he added on the true coat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is basically just it's like an added charge that basically just goes to the salesman. It's like an upsell, right? Yeah. You go to the shoe store and then they always try to fucking sell you the goddamn shoe cleaner. It's like, it's just extra profit, and there's probably it's whatever, it doesn't matter. Right. But the guy comes in and he's like, you're a liar, you didn't do this, and it's like
what he says to Jerry, the customer.
Right. What the customer says to Jerry, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he basically gives up his tickets to like that hockey game. Mm-hmm. So that the manager would cut some money off of the price because of the true coat thing.
And that customer calls him out.
Yeah, I mean, you're a bastard.
Yeah, and he calls him a liar, and he is. I mean, he lies to everyone.
Yeah,
I mean, pretty much,
But I always just find like the character like dejected by the world he lives in as a very interesting like character trope. Because I feel like there's a lot of people in the world like that who feel like kind of just like a loser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I enjoy this movie a lot. There's more like I like.
Okay, so I want to hold on real quick. I want to return to your point because I have to disagree. I don't think that he feels dejected as much. I don't think it's maybe you can glean that and assume that. I don't think he necessarily is himself feeling like dejected himself. I think that he is more of a case of a bumbling weakling almost, that not necessarily that he's dejected, but that he's trying to get ahead because he feels like he deserves more, or is just trying to cheat the system in some way. I don't think that, because when you say dejected, it makes them feel more sympathetic.
All right, well,
is a sympathetic
maybe I guess the way I'd put it is that Jerry keeps on trying to gain control, but he keeps on getting these like reality checks, like you'll just
he's a bumbling
fool.
Yeah, he is a loser, but he definitely doesn't think of himself as a loser.
But he gets the reality checks, and then he just goes along with it. You know what I mean? He gets checked on his, his bravado, and he ends up just being a paper tiger, really.
Yeah, he's very submissive.
Yeah, I mean, even when, like, the officers are arresting him in the end, he, like, fights, and he's like, all right, I'll go quietly. All right.
He doesn't say that. He's yelling. He doesn't say, I'll go quietly.
Oh, I thought he did.
Because he's getting arrested.
Yeah, he is kicking. Yeah, kicking and screaming. Tried to climb out the bathroom window.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What you got, Zach?
In terms of scenes, here's a scene that I want to talk about. It's a weird one, and it feels almost out of place in the movie. Because I want to talk more about Frances McDormand's character, because I think she really carries it, more so than Jerry does. Like, I think she's the star of the show. So, there's one scene that I think is there to, like, build on her character and give more exposition to her character, and that's when she receives a phone call in the middle of the night from some random guy being like, yeah, I saw you on TV, like, I remember you from school, like, it's been a while, and then it's, like, just an awkward call, but then she goes and meets up with him in Minneapolis, and it's this weirdo guy who's like, yeah, like, how you doing, that's great to hear, and then he's like, so, tell me, you know, about yourself, about your marriage, and then he, like, gets up from the seat, you know, to walk around and try and sit next to her, and she's like, no, why don't you sit over there, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, and then he goes on to, like, give her, you know, some story about being married and his wife dying, I think of cancer is, I think, the implication or whatever. And then, you know, but he's, like, clearly trying to get at her. He's clearly trying to rope her into something romantic.
He's trying to slide into her DMs.
Yeah, and she's, like, not having it. She's married, and she has a good marriage, too, which, you know, obviously, you know, you compare that to Jerry's marriage with his wife. You know, he set up his wife to get kidnapped. You know, you don't if like I said while watching, you don't have a good marriage and call in hitmen to stage a kidnapping if you're having a
maybe it's
marriage.
Elaborate role play.
You know, and but
maybe he's trying to liven up their sex lives.
But Marge has a good relationship with her husband and you know, clearly is not interested in this guy. And you know, even at the end he breaks it down there, he's like, oh, I'm so lonely. You know, it's one of those moments, the I'm so lonely crying moment. After he gets,
that's not gonna help.
After his creepy moves get rebuffed, you know, then it's finally like breaking. I'm so lonely, you know. But I know, Patrick, you're showing me your notes, you know, about how you thought that, you know, her relationship with her husband is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Norm's my favorite character.
Norm.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you think of you know, breaking the stereotype is like. She's kind of the hero of the film, you know, and it's kind of.
If you just go based on her accent, you know, maybe it's just, you know, my coastal elitism, but you know, fucking. You know, just hearing that accent, it's not imposing. It's kind of like you when you hear the accent, you hear it as like it's almost like unimposing, very polite, and you know, not. But she, just to add to how great she is in that role, is that she is imposing while coming off as very polite, and you know, she's like very pushy, you know, but like in a very, you know, I don't know, in that like Great Lakes accent and kind of mannerisms of just being like, oh well, yeah.
The way she ropes Shep into a corner when she goes in there.
Yeah, you said he was like one of the you know, toughest looking guys in the movie, and she gets him to fold like a fucking, you know.
For a little bit of context, Shep Proudfoot is the character who arranges originally the deal between Jerry and the hitmen.
Yeah. So, you know, yeah, she's honestly, she's definitely the standout performance in this movie. I mean, you know, all the characters we mentioned before are, you know, pretty good. You know, William H. Macy's doing great. Peter Stormare as the heavy, he's awesome. Steve Buscemi as the funny looking guy, he's great. Yeah. But she is definitely like the corner piece of this movie. Her performance. Yeah,
Jerry is kind of an anti-hero too, because I mean, thinking about who the protagonist is, I mean, I do think that it does revolve around Jerry. I mean, he sets the story in motion by arranging this hit. I mean, it's the only reason we see the events of these films is because of what he does, but he's not exactly a likable character. You don't totally root for him.
I mean,
he's a pushover.
Yeah, from the beginning, you're kind of like, dude, who fucking sets up their wife in this way? Like, it's like a loser from the get-go.
Right. Well, it starts off by showing you that he is setting up his wife to be kidnapped, and then proceeds to show you that he's just a fucking pushover in his everyday life. You know?
He's a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A weasel.
A weasel.
Yeah, he's
not
looking...
a snake. Snakes are cunning and smart. Fucking, he's a weasel. Fucking, yeah.
And he's looking for it anywhere he can get it, too.
Yeah, and...
hold on a minute. Draw the comparison between Norm, Marge's husband,
and Jerry.
Yeah, because both of them are both kind of like... almost simpletons.
Yeah.
But like Norm is just happy being where he's
because he's got
he's
a down.
When the when he gets a bag of night crawlers to go ice fishing up north, you know, and at the end of the movie, I like this scene too. I like this as a good cap off for the movie and to cap off like Marge's story where you know he's there and he's like, oh. You know, my painting of the mallard, it's only being sold on a stand for 3 cents, and my buddy, you know, his painting, his bird went for, you know, 27 cents, 29 cents, whatever it was. And, you know, she kind of gives him a little bit of reassurance, and she's like, well, you know, prices of postage change all the time, and sometimes people need those 3 cents to make up that difference. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right, dear. I love you, dear. You know, like, and it kind of, like, ends on that. You know, and like that's almost I feel like a good comparison of that guy kind of just being like this kind of just like simple whatever he's trying his best.
She builds him back up. She builds him up. She's a down ass chick, dude. She's a down ass chick, and she
you know compare that to Jerry where you know obviously he's lacking something in his life. He's kind of constantly failing and struggling for more. He
tying it
have that reassurance. He can't just relax and go ice fishing and paint pictures.
Tying it back to Patrick when he mentions about Jerry's wife when her father's coming, you know, she's all nervous chopping the vegetables and she just kind of seems like a nervous wreck and trying to desperately, you know, be, you know, good in her father's eyes or whatever. And, you know, like it's almost like you see why he ended up the way he was. Not blaming her. I'm just saying that like the stage was set for him to do this, you know, the father, you know, like even down to the point the father doesn't even let him do the bag drop, right? Because like, you know, this is all his little plan and he, you know, all he had to do was do the bag drop and his father, what was that?
Oh, sorry, I just whistled.
Okay. I thought you were trying to get my attention.
No.
But you know, like at every moment, you know, he just has no fucking confidence whatsoever. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and you know what? But with that, oh man, what's his name? Your favorite character? Norm. Yeah, and you know what? Norm. What a perfect name for him too. But you know,
hey there, Normie.
Like Jerry's wife, you never really see her pressuring him to be more than he is. It very much comes from his obsession to, I don't know, like make a big score or something. He clearly has delusions of grandeur that he's just been, you know, vying for and failing.
It's what capitalism does to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Zach and I were talking about Death of a Salesman the other night, and you see a similar product in Jerry as this guy who, you know, is obsessed with success to the point where he's trying to get the better end of every deal he strikes. You know, he's trying to get the better end of the people he has coming into work when he's like promising them one thing and then they come in and he's a liar and then also even with the kidnapping, you know, he's trying to get $1 million from his father-in-law, but he's only paying the hitman $80,000. Yeah. Which is a huge come up. And then even the parking lot, when he talks to Shep about it, the parking lot only cost $300 and it was like it was about $300K. Yeah, and then he's asking for $750,000. Yeah. He's just never satisfied. He's trying to take
advantage of everybody.
Yeah.
He's like trying to get them, trying to squeeze out every last
he's like a grifter who doesn't have the skills to grift. You know, and yeah, you know, when you think about it,
he's a con man himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But he's a lazy con man because he wouldn't even do the deed himself, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, he wasn't allowed to. He wanted to, but her father Wade wouldn't allow it. He's too. I don't know. That's laziness. It's the weakness that he is.
He doesn't fight back whatsoever.
The question has to be asked if he was a stronger willed character, if he had more conviction, would these plans, his schemes, be more successful? Like, why do his plans fall apart? Why do his schemes, his dealings?
Because he just bumble it up.
Desperate.
You just bumble it up.
And people can smell it on him. I think that, like, even in the movie, all the characters can smell it on him, like how weak and inept and just bumbling he is. You know?
Yeah, and one thing I kind of find interesting too is, as being a fan of, Last Podcast on the Left, when you hear, like, the stories, Zach, I know you're a big fan of them, but when you hear the stories of, like, the murders that are done in these, like, small towns, and, like, how, like, some of the cops, like, completely fumble and bumble the case, because especially in the early days when these serial killers would show up, they weren't, a lot of these towns were just, like, small towns where not a lot of crime happened in, right? And that's, like, the vibe you get from this movie. But, and all the cops around Frances McDormand, they're just bumblebutts, too, They're just like, oh, no. And she's running the fucking show. She's
the
like...
most competent
in
the movie, next to Garrett, the other hitman.
Right.
Even that cop who does the police work and says, oh, he hadn't finished writing down the license plate of that Toyota Sierra. And she's immediately like, I don't agree with your police work there, eh? I think DLR, it's a a realtor...
dealer's license.
Dealer's license.
Realtor's license. All right, Patrick.
A little too close to home there.
Cut. All right, so
there's one other aspect of this movie I want to discuss.
Go for it.
That is the character of not a human character, but the character of the environment, the winter.
Yes.
Because I feel like you've been doing the accent. You watch this movie and you become a little bit fixated on the accents.
Right.
But I feel like the setting, both in combination of the northwestern states, be it North Dakota and Minnesota, in combination with the winter, is a force and an important, setting of itself that I feel like lends a lot to. Like, this movie wouldn't be what it is
without this. Yeah. I 100% agree. 100%.
So I just kind of want to, open up a little bit of a discussion about that, because I think the winter. If you want to think about if you think about the idea of, like, the Murphy's Law of this movie and the best laid plans go awry and stuff, like, how much does the world itself, fuck up and muddle up the plans that are formed? Like, how, how much is winter and the snow and the ice itself an obstacle to overcome?
Well, what I think it is just... when my first impression of just seeing, like, these, just snow-covered areas is just bleak. That's the feeling you get. It's just bleakness and kind of just like a hopelessness. And there's just kind of like a, maybe you can kind of say that's like, that's like life to them. Is like life is kind of just bleak out there. Not bleak, but, just kind of, you're living in this fucking area where it's... I don't know. It's just covered in snow, right? There's nothing really stands out when everything is covered in snow. It all just looks like one same area, just blank whiteness. And there's something about that where I think that kind of, like, speaks to, like, a lot of the characters, where they're at in the movie. Like, a lot of the people committing crimes, they're kind of, they're stuck in this fog, they're stuck in this snowstorm, this haze. Mm-hmm. And Frances McDormand's the only one trying to get through it. She's the one, as tough as it is, she's the one navigating through the unforgiving landscape. And a lot of the other characters just kind of get stuck in it. Mm. Like, even when Steve Buscemi, the whole, like, let's keep it in Brainerd scene, he kills the cop, Then some people drive by, and then the guy, what was the guy's name? Peter Stormare's character? Gare. He goes down and then chases them down, and then, finishes them off. It kind of just shows that, I don't know, there's just like, there's something about the environment that just, it just screams just bleak, empty nothingness. I don't know.
I agree with that, and I also think it's a place that's kind of devoid of opportunity.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
But it's interesting because when Frances McDormand is taking Gare back, she says all these people died, like Mrs. Lundeberg, and those 3 people all died just for a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. And she said there's more to life than just a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And she, even in this bleak place devoid of opportunity, found a way to be happy, to marry a man that she loves, and to live a life that she's proud of.
Yeah.
Like she didn't need, a fancy house or a lot of money or,
She sought her own self-validation. You know what I mean? No one, everyone just took her as an authority source, not just because she was a cop, but because of her drive to sort through this, bleak environment.
Yeah.
What about you, Zach?
Well, I don't disagree. I had a little bit of a different reading.
All right, go for it.
In that I feel like the winter represents forces that are out of your own control. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way I was viewing the snow in the winter. In that, like, and that's what I think a lot of this, is what this movie's about. Like, if you look at it from Jerry's perspective, like he orchestrates his kidnapping, but how it goes down is out of his control. He's not there when the 2 men arrive to kidnap his wife, and it's a mess there at his house. It's out of his control. It's not how the state trooper pulls over Gare and Carl. That's something that's out of their control, even though he could have put those tags on. There's ways you can fight back. What I think is funny is the costuming of this movie. Everybody's wearing like huge coats.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
and so or how he wants to, he's like, I gotta deal with these guys, I gotta deal with them, but like even doing the deal is out of his control. Like Wade shuts him down, and he's like, no, I'm gonna take care of it. Or and how all his plans are, everything seems to be out of his control no matter like what he does, and it's like you're kind of fighting almost the rising tide a little bit.
His
like
own,
the winter to me, and the weather represents like this omniscient force that's like out of your control, that's constantly there badgering you, hindering you, holding you down, and like what you can only really like just deal with it, like layer up, and like kind of just live in it rather than like fight it, and like in the one scene when he goes out there after Wade tells him, oh, we're just gonna give you a finder's fee, and he goes out there and he has to scrape his car, and he
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Like that's him kind of just succumbing to the everything that is out of his control, kind of just keeping him down, compared to Frances McDormand, who kind of Marge, who kind of just layers up and weathers it, and kind of she
pregnant,
she doesn't ever really necessarily acknowledge the weather. It's almost like she lives in it, and
she doesn't complain.
It lives in her.
She doesn't complain once in this movie, honestly. She's just like, she's determined, and in a way, if you're going based off,
she is pregnant. We forgot to mention that she's 7 months pregnant.
Yeah, and
then he says 2 more months, and Norm goes there, and he's like 2 more months.
And it's kind of just like how you choose to deal with those circumstances based on off of that reading. You could be someone like a Jerry who just kind of goes like, oh well, it's out of my hands, what am I gonna do, oh gosh, or you could be like Frances McDormand, and like you said, who weathers it and just kind of trucks on through and deals with it. I can see that. There's
it's
just
more like the forces of the world, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
You know, things will always go wrong. It's not like necessarily the plans you make, just more how you respond to it.
Yeah. Well, but I don't you think like, like a snowblind, just complete utter
The color palette of this movie is white.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's just so you get this feeling of just like remote, desolate, like nothingness, like almost like they're in like kind of like a limbo. Like that's like what the snow kind of reminds me of.
I thought that added.
No, go on.
I thought that added to the believability of the whole place, the remoteness of the setting.
Right.
Is like, I don't know, in a big city,
Exactly.
there would be a town tearing apart people looking for a Sierra with the DLR plates, Yeah. So it also adds to kind of the narrative that you buy into, everything that's going on.
But civilization is in arm's reach because Minneapolis is right nearby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just I don't know. This movie's fucking good.
So I did. Yeah, no, go.
I was just thinking about this. I wanted to bring this up because I know this is a movie you also enjoyed because we watched it not too long ago. But this movie, I feel a strong connection to, like Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. That movie. It's a very similar plot to where there's a get rich quick opportunity that just goes completely wrong,
and also by scamming family.
Yeah,
and not just scamming them in a hey, like, why don't you give me money for this, like violently scamming your family members,
Yeah, I mean, in that movie, the guy trying to rip off his family ends up fucking killing his mom. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a good movie. I recommend it. If you like this one, you would definitely like that one. But I don't know. I just watching it, like I got that watching it throughout where it's very similar to that movie, but it's almost like it's a completely like different take on the motivations behind why the characters do what they do in that movie is more clearly defined than in this movie. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they don't define intention in this movie. I'm just saying as compared to that one, they describe it a little bit more because they never outright say that he's until later on in the movie that he's committing fraud at work and all this stuff. It slowly alludes to that.
So how about the title
Fargo?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it.
Far Gone.
Yeah, what does that bring to mind for you? I mean, Far Gone. And who's far gone? And I mean, is it just the
everyone, man?
Okay, I think that's I don't know. I think Fargo is an interesting title because, like I said at the beginning, Fargo's a town.
Sure, but it's got to be more than that. Too.
Yeah, I think that it's just supposed to be like almost a I've thought about that too. Like, why did they decide to take this one random town? The town's famous now, and I also wanted to bring up how there's a TV show now about Fargo TV show. Mm-hmm. There's something about the setting of it. I like it's the desolateness of it.
Right.
A call out to some random bumfuck town in the middle of the snowy northern Americas, close to Canada, in the middle of nowhere, that just somehow sets the stage for like these like very daunting, menacing like murder stories. So
like really brutal.
I think that Fargo just sets a good tone for what the movie is, like a far-flung location that nobody knows that, like, something weird went down.
But it makes you think too, because I mean, when they were writing the movie, it's like, do you choose the location first and then write a story for that, or did they have this story and then find a place where it would make sense. And I guess my thought with the Fargo, what I landed on was, it's like, how far will you go? You know, like, would you? I mean, he's an older gentleman. His kid is not that young. You know, his kid's probably early teens.
Yeah.
You know, junior high, if not early high school. And he's still got nothing.
Jerry's son, Scott.
Yeah. And Jerry's deeply in debt. You know, he's, by all definitions, I don't know, not all definitions. He's got a family. He's not an abusive parent, from what I could see. But it's like, how far will you go to be a success? Will you, hire hitmen to kidnap your wife, potentially ruin, like, everything that you do have, everything that you have built? And how far will the hitmen go to be rich? How far will Steve Buscemi go to, be rich? Will you start murdering people and kidnapping people just to, like, have your shot at, I don't know, like a luxurious life?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Do you got anything else, or you want to move on to final thoughts?
I guess I can say whatever else I have in my final thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Patrick, since you're the guest, why don't you go first?
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first because I was already thinking about it. So what I think about makes this movie great is the setting, the mood, the atmosphere, the general dreariness, bleakness, and, like, bumblingness of it all comes together in, like, a very interesting manner, in talking about the location and the setting of this film, I really don't think this would be a lot different of a movie if it just took place in, like, a Los Angeles type setting or wherever. Like, the setting makes a difference. Like, the icy small town adds this menacing dark feel to the movie that, there's something about winter that's much darker when it comes to storytelling that adds a darkness.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking metal, dude.
Yeah.
That's why all those Norwegians are fucking nuts, and they do.
So something about the winter landscape adds a darkness and a menacingness that takes it from being like, okay, yeah, some goofy shit happened and it's, whatever, another, whodunit murder story or whatever, but, like, the setting of it makes everything seem so much more ominous. So, and the fact that it happens in this weird small town that, is, only really mentioned once, and then it takes place between, what's the name of the town? We forgot to mention also Paul Bunyan is like a weird motif. Yeah, a weird motif.
Brainerd,
yeah. Brainerd, like Paul Bunyan becomes like a weird motif with his axe and his blue ox,
And then Gare kills Steve Buscemi with an axe too.
And they stay at the Blue Ox Inn that, Paul Bunyan supposedly had that blue ox or whatever. So it has this weird, like, frontiersman sense about it, which is it's both interesting, it's engaging, it's an engaging setting and an engaging place to be in, despite it being full of just snow and not much else.
Yeah.
It still makes it an engaging and a dark setting to be in, which it somehow adds a whole layer of darkness onto the murders. I like the sense of humor behind this whole movie too. Like I said earlier, it's a dark comedy. Like, there is a weird, like, you can't help but laugh at a lot of this, as we were watching this, it was, you do kind of chuckle at a lot of things and laugh about it, even though it's all murder and death most of the movie. And in between the two guys, Carl and Gare, banging hookers and Jerry, like, bumbling around at his bad job as a car salesman,
being a typical bumblebutt,
a slimy car salesman.
But hey, he's the executive sales officer. Okay,
it's like a lot of other Coen brother films where they take this dreary, bleak,
a mundane kind of, like, area,
like a nondescript location and a not so noteworthy character, and somehow blend that with setting and a good sense of humor in it all, and like somehow that all comes together to tell like this story that like really you feel it like very much so in the mood that you're left when you watch this. Like Big Lebowski is the same way, or A Serious Man is the same way. You like watch the movie and you leave it like kind of feeling this mood, which I think is very impressive, and it's like definitely when we return to other Coen Brothers films is something we'll have to discuss in the future. The mood that their films convey and leave you feeling, you know, and how they mix mundanity with darkness and humor to like kind of land on something brilliant most of the time in their films. And you know, the fact that they were able to take this movie and the first season of Fargo, later seasons aren't as good, but the season 1 of Fargo
with Billy Bob
and Billy Bob Thornton
and Martin Freeman,
and they take basically Fargo and retell it in a different way. And I don't know if you've seen it, right? You guys have seen both.
I've seen at least the first and second season. The second season wasn't bad too.
The series is essentially the movie told in TV form, different characters, different stories.
Yeah,
but, like,
a little different. Like, similar characters for sure.
You can go back and watch that show, and like it'll leave you with the same feeling that this movie does. You know, which I just think is impressive, and it's hard to put in words exactly like, you know, what that's supposed to be and like where that comes from. You know.
So what do you give it?
What do I give it? I'm gonna leave this one with. I'm between a 7 and an 8, so I'm gonna go with like a 7.5. I don't know if I'd want to give it a full 8, but it's a little better than a 7. I would leave it with something like a 7.5. It's a very enjoyable watch, fun. You know, if you got friends over, whatever, you know, it's a hitter with I think a lot of people. Like I don't think. I
don't think you could hate this movie.
You'd be hard pressed to put this movie on, you know, especially watching it in a group setting, you know, just
and not laugh.
How commanding, and it is with your intent and with your attention and your mood, I think is very cool, and the acting is great. The actors are all great across the board, and the story's funny and weird and, you know, also creepy. And the end scene too, with Gare shoving Steve Buscemi into the wood chipper is like just the icing on the top of all this that kind of leaves you with this like, oh my god, like, which is pretty cool. So I would say with this movie.
All right, 7.5. Yeah, that's good. Patrick.
All right, so yeah, I think the movie is definitely character driven. You know, the characters really sell the movie and they draw you in and they get you interested in it. The world building is incredible. I mean, with all the different details. Oh, man. You know, I tend to be pretty kind in my ratings. I was thinking...
So on our scale, sorry, just real quick.
Yeah.
On our scale, 5 is average.
Yeah.
We're trying
to put it like, because a lot of times we feel like anytime you drop below a 7, people will take that and be like, oh, it's a bad movie then. So we're trying to be a little bit more
forgiving.
Forgiving.
It's
and
the Fantano scale.
Strict. So what's a 5?
A 5 would
what's
be
a
like,
classic 5? You know, like,
classic 5?
Or just like, you know, like, oh, that's a 5.
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
If you like something enough where you would recommend it to somebody in a daily discussion, I would give it at least a 6 or a 7. If it was something you watched and like, that was cool, but whatever, like, that would be like 4 or 5.
Yeah, like, I didn't hate it, but it didn't leave an impact on me.
I'm really loving the breaking down of this scale. I really love this. I'm gonna keep this all in.
Yeah.
If it was something that was profound to you and like really was thought provoking and really made
8 or 9.
Wow, that's a movie. Yeah, then we're hitting 8, 9.
And 10's like a masterpiece.
10 is that's your Citizen Kane.
The Shining.
I mean, I was gonna go with an 8.5, which is not too far,
but
with that all in mind, you know, like on that scale, I don't know if I'd give it an 8.5. So I'll go with an 8.
All right, pretty good.
And you want to elaborate, or is there anything else? I mean, Patrick took notes during this movie. Is there anything you missed from there that you want to bring up, or any final thoughts that you missed out on, or anything that during our conversation that you thought of that didn't get to be brought up?
I mean, in general, I like any story that goes against classic character tropes. So for me, yeah, McDormand's...
I liked your notes about Norm, about him being the doting husband.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because, I mean, immediately when you see these crime movies, you expect it to be some tough, gruff, masculine, you know, like character who's doing the whole thing. But yeah, she was a female cop. She was pregnant. She was gentle. She was kind. You know, she was diligent.
Also, like, very commanding of situations too.
She was diligent, intelligent. She was ruthless. You know, I mean, any lead she had, she followed through to the end. And yeah, she has this doting husband who's constantly hanging off of her. You know, bringing her lunch at every turn, and
she's what a cop should be.
Yeah,
yes.
Still a cab, but still.
Yeah, and yeah, even brings down Shep Proudfoot.
I do agree with that, and I do like that, how she's kind of like just this normal woman, but is also like very much in charge of every situation.
Hell yeah, dude. Into. She's hashtag girl boss. All right. You good, or do you got any?
Yeah. I mean, you know,
we're just running a little long. That's all.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's about all I got to say on it. I think I've said all I wanted to say.
Yeah, well done, Patrick.
Oh, thank
you. So condescending. Good job, little fella.
Good
job, buddy.
Thank you.
So all right. So just to wrap it all up, I love one of the things I was thinking about is I love the way this movie does exposition, right? Because there's not a whole lot, right? It gives you like, all right, you know, Jerry has been kind of doing this fraudulent kind of dealio. He's, you know, it slowly introduces you to the character's, you know, philosophy and how he's gotten through life. And there's something about, you know, movies nowadays where they choose to like they just do like a giant exposition dump right in the beginning. They spell it
all out. Yeah.
They do like a giant exposition dump in the beginning so that, you know, you understand everything. But in this movie, it's like we're giving you a little bit here, a little bit there, and then we're gonna throw a bunch of shit at you, and we're gonna let this story unfold and let the story tell you about the characters, right? Rather than it, you know, does that make sense at all?
Absolutely.
And you know, I love the setting, and yeah, you know, like you said, Zach, the thing is that there's been crime movies done about, you know, big city scenarios, you know, like LA, SF.
LA's a classic setting, LA noir.
Yeah,
is this a noir film? Sorry, I know it's a random question. Would you consider it?
I'd say it has.
I would not.
No, because, you know, actually, I don't think it's a noir film. I think it goes against that because noir, I mean, is French for black, and it is bleak, and it is, like you said, a black comedy, and it has dark aspects to it. I still don't think it's a noir because it's not like, because a noir has a very central character, right? And this, as much as we've been saying Frances McDormand's character is Marge, is the protagonist, the main character, the thing is that it's an ensemble piece. You know, it's all these pieces coming together. You know, the bumblebutt.
I would say it's noir adjacent.
Yeah.
I could see it having noir elements.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, we've seen crime movies done in big cities and stuff like that. So to see something in a small town, it just shows you that, you know, evil lurks even in the most unassuming of places.
Small Town Murder. Sorry, very random. I'm pretty sure there's a well-known podcast, because, true crime podcast, very popular. I think there's a well-known one called Small Town Murder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there is.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
But there's something, to the layman that it's unassuming, and, you wouldn't expect it to, possibly be, a dangerous place. I mean, if you think about it, the people that died who were driving by and they witnessed the cop getting killed, they were just some, random teenagers, kind of looking, and, like, you wouldn't expect them to be a danger in somewhere in the, middle of nowhere, some podunk town. But that's what the Coens do so well with, is they make the environment almost a character of itself, and I love this movie. It has legitimate laugh out loud moments, which is hard to do in a dark movie, where it's not corny. It's like legitimately like the ongoing joke of keep on referring to Steve Buscemi as a funny looking fella. I'm sorry, that was hilarious.
And then they'd ask him to elaborate on that. And they'd just in the general sense, he's funny looking.
Even more than the average guy.
Yeah, and I love the world that this movie takes place in, and I love the characters that take place, because it's a comedy of errors. It's like you said, Murphy's Law. Anything that will go wrong can go wrong will. And I don't know, I think the pacing of this movie's really well done. It doesn't linger with one character too much. It switches perspective multiple times, to where it's just like, all right, what am I watching now? And yeah, this movie, I do think it's a really good Coen Brothers movie, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I do think it's really good. I'd probably because the only reason why I say that is because I think they do like the menacing and they do the darkness way better in other movies later in their filmography. So that's why it's kind of hard not to include that in, because you could say there's funny moments in No Country for Old Men, kind of like but it's almost where that movie is so tense that the humor in that movie really sticks out because it like cuts through. But yeah, no, Coen Brothers, man, they kill it. They kill it in damn near most movies they do.
A bit of a easier watch, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not, it's not like some crazy plot you have to follow. It's pretty easy to follow, but you really get to just soak in.
It's not a long movie. They're like, No Country for Old Men, I feel like runs close to 3 hours, where this one's like an hour.
Yeah, I was surprised with.
Yeah, and but the way they do the storytelling, you feel like you've watched like the kind of a Midwestern epic, And so I'd probably give this movie. I think I'm right with Patrick. I want to give it an 8. I think it does a lot of things right, and Frances McDormand, she's awesome in this movie, and so is a lot of the other characters. I don't know why, but she sticks out. And yeah,
we love Frances McDormand. She's from the Bay Area.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, shout out to the Coen Brothers too for writing such a strong female character.
That's not corny. Not corny. It's natural. It's not
before
forced.
It was trendy.
Yeah,
before it was trendy.
Well, unfortunately, guys, it doesn't meet the qualifications of the Bechdel test. So.
On that note, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us, Patrick. We'd love to have you.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, anytime you're in the area, come back.
Well, I've been honored to be here, and you've been a lovely audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You're the lovely one.
Yeah, you're lovely. And handsome.
Wow.
All right. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
All right. Peace out. Oh, yeah. Or if you want to buy a house in Colorado.